gonna be easy. Thank you for coming, guys. Spending your Friday night with me when you can be out, getting drunk at one of your many beautiful bars here in town. Or at home watching Netflix or something. So, this is my third time, I think you do it too actually, third time in Paris, and it's even more beautiful than I remembered. The last time I was here it was really rainy and cold, kind of like back home, where I'm from, the exotic island of Canada. And I just had an espresso, so I'm probably going to play a lot of notes tonight. And I was just going to ask you guys, does anybody have a couch that I can crash on for the rest of my life, because I don't want to leave. Just give me your address later. Seriously, this is like, I don't know. It's like the most beautiful. Do you guys get tired of it? Like, it's the most beautiful city in the world. It really is. And, I mean, even the rats are beautiful. I'm from. You guys probably have all heard of it. I'm from Guelph. Right? Like, how exciting is that? Not even from Toronto. I'm from a city called Guelph. So that's why when I come to Paris, it's just like... Anyway,
You shouldn't try to drive here.
No, I wouldn't be doing that. I have legs. I would be walking. Okay, so I'm going to play a bunch of music. You have me for an hour, telling some bad jokes and playing some guitar. Here's my newest version of the NJ traditional. It's beautiful. It's Atomic Fire. And then I have a model over here I'm going to play later. And then the way I've always done this, and will continue to do it, is I play a couple songs, then we do a Q&A. There's no bad question. But I'm going to set it up now because sometimes it's a little bit difficult getting someone to ask the first question. So I offer up this disgusting, sweaty guitar pick I'm going to be using today to the first person who asks a question. So please. And actually, I did that yesterday we were in Madrid. No, yesterday we were in Madrid, and the first question somebody asked was, "What conditioner do I use?" So I don't want to hear that question again, please. Anyway, I'm going to play some new stuff for you guys. Thanks again for coming. I really, really appreciate you guys. Thank you. I recognize that applause. That's like, should we clap or not? I think this is the first gig where I've been my own sound guy. Double pay. Okay, so how's the mix? Can you hear everything? It's okay. You want more guitar? You want less guitar? I'm just kidding. I'm gonna play one more. Thank you very much. It's always nice to get that one out of the way. That whole middle section. And I think you can probably see me mouthing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm like, fuck, is it 11? 10. And then it's over. I don't know. So, okay. Anybody have a question? Oh.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
Nice. Thank you for being here. My question is, who is the most guitarist or artist that you is most impressive for you that you play with? Is it just like Guthrie Govan or anyone else?
Who's the most impressive like guitar player?
We're like, wow, playing with him or her.
I don't know. I don't really think about that stuff.
Okay.
It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. It's funny because this is essentially, it is a job for me. I play guitar all day. I write music all day. I tour. I come up here and do these things. I'm thinking about music all day. I'm listening. The last thing I'm really thinking about is like what other people are doing. It's just like it's become such an all-consuming thing that a lot of times I don't have time to kind of see and look what else is going on, if that makes any sense. A lot of times it's just, can I go up and play a little bit better each time? When I was a kid, it was a different story. And my favorite guitar players have been the same my whole life, pretty much. I grew up, when I was really young, I discovered this Swedish guy whose name I couldn't pronounce for the longest time. I thought it was Young V. Malmsteen. So then I learned, Ingvar Malmsteen, of course. He was like the guy I was, trying to emulate in a lot of ways, which I could never do, of course, especially my picking hand because I'm left-handed. This stupid thing could never keep up. I really love Stevie Ray Vaughan, which I could never do that either because he was playing, telephone cable size strings, 13 or 14 gauge strings. Jeff Beck, which I could never do either because he doesn't play with a pick. I don't know how he does what he does. And Eddie Van Halen, who also I could not do what he did. So it was more so just about, just trying to do what I could with those guys and then apply it to my own playing. Now, Guthrie is like, everyone knows Guthrie's the guy, of course. But if I kind of thought like that all the time, I think it would take a lot of the joy and almost make me insecure a lot of times. I had a really cool moment with Guthrie where I got to do a guitar festival years ago, and when I got to the festival, it was in, where was it? It was in a really cold place, not Canada, Norway. It was in Norway. And I remember getting there, and I got to the dressing room door, and there was a piece of paper on the door that said Guthrie Govan and Nick Johnston, and I felt myself shit my pants. And I went in the room, and he was just sitting there practicing, and I'd known him. We'd done some work before, but I was like, wow, that's really cool. I don't try to be like him in any way, even though when I had the beard, at least some people said, oh, he's kind of doing what he does. But my favorite guitar players have been the same since I fell in love with the instrument, and that'll never change. When I first decided to start playing guitar, my dad showed me a record called "Flying in the Blue Dream" by Joe Satriani. You guys know that record, and he played me a song called "Flying in the Blue Dream," and I said, "Dad, where are the vocals?" So, even back then, I didn't quite know, what was going on in the guitar world. I was pretty much up my own ass the whole time. So that question, it's a really hard one to answer. I think,
Sorry.
No, it's okay. You still get the pick. Anybody else? Any question? Yes.
I have a question, but it's more for all musicians in general. Because first time I got to ask. You listen to a lot of music, like daily, all of the time. Do you actually feel emotions? Is there actually a lot of music that makes you feel emotions? Because maybe your brain is saturated? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I have, I'll openly admit this, I actually not that long ago listened to a song off of Jeff Beck record, his record Emotion and Commotion. He does a Somewhere Over the Rainbow cover. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have heard it, it's the most beautiful. And I wept like a child, just like an infant. my wife was like, "What? What are you doing?" I was like, "Get out of here!" Of course, yeah. I mean, that's the whole connection to it. Is just it's feeling something, wanting to always feel something. To feel the goosebumps from, like when your skin stands up, the prickles. That's the most amazing thing. I don't even know how that's possible. Sound waves can do that to you, but I think we're all chasing that feeling. Trying to feel that. And the best thing is when I stand up here, at least right now, when I stand up here and I play a song I wrote, at home in either a little home studio or bedroom or something, and to get up here and play it the way I always intended it, and have people kind of react to it, it's like the most amazing feeling. It's so gratifying. I'm not up here thinking like, oh, I can't wait to get dinner. It's gonna be so good to get dinner tonight. Go home and sleep. I'm like in the moment, really trying to kind of extract as much emotion as I can out of something. If I didn't feel that way, I think there would be something wrong, But hopefully that is always the way I feel about it. And then if I hit like a bend where like the pitch is really good, I feel like a little maybe that felt nice, because that's like the hardest thing to do for me. Anybody else? Question? Yes.
I have a question about the way you compose your song, because we are a lot of guitar players here, and we have all the same disease. That is, we don't know how to play correctly drum or piano or whatever. Okay, and since your first album, yeah.
I actually got goosebumps from that. Sorry. Sorry, continue.
And so, since your first album, in fact, I hear a guitar player that can really play different instruments, because it's not only a guitar player album, it's solo guitars that are at the same level of the other instruments. I don't know if I'm clear. It's just, are you working with other musicians as a keyboardist or
Yeah,
a drummer?
that's a good question.
Compose, or
Yeah, I think what's really interesting, I mean, if I may say so about my own progression, if you go back and listen to, don't do this, please. Don't, for my sanity, don't go back and listen to my first one. Please don't. But if you listen to the first one and then you listen to the newest one, or even the one previous, for my money, whatever, production, playing, composition, confidence, everything, it's done that. My biggest fear was always to peak early. You put the first record out and everyone's like, everything else has been shit since that. That was always like, oh, I don't want to peak early. That was such a big fear of mine. So I've always kind of, I guess, played and written and produced music at whatever my limit was at the time. And the first record, for example, I did in a weekend, live off the floor. It was me and a bass player just kind of staring at each other. It was like, chorus, and we started playing that, which was really, that's how I thought you made records. That's what I thought. Because you'd see old videos like, oh, they're in a room playing together and they have the amp there. Cool, that's great. And it costs every cent I had, $500, 500 Canadian dollars, which is like, I don't know, €2, something like that. That's what I thought. So even my understanding of production in the music industry and how you do things has been sort of injected into how I do things now. And that's not even that long ago. This is 2010, basically. So 12 years ago, before really like the social media kind of boom, like Instagram, and everybody had a YouTube channel about their cat and everything. And nothing on that? Okay. And TikTok, all this stuff. So that's all I knew. And I had a friend that was making albums. He was much older than me, so I thought I'm going to try and do it the same way he did. And then I quickly learned guitar wasn't really enough. I wanted to maybe bring in more instruments. I find when I'm at home working on music, I don't even think about the guitar. The guitar kind of just sits over in the corner. And I sit down at the piano and I write. And I find that's how I develop my understanding of harmony better. I say this at every clinic, because this comes up in some form or other, but the way I play piano what's like you're saying incorrectly, is how my dad uses his iPhone, which is kind of like, where's the X? That's me. I'm sitting there just like, ding. No. And I only recently learned how to use a sustain pedal. It only took 16 years, but I got there. Because I went and bought one for like $5, and now I can kind of use it. But I also realize I'm not, maybe, I don't want to say good enough, but I'm not at the point where I'm ready to play that. Like I wouldn't play drums on my album, I wouldn't play bass, I get people who are good at the thing. So I work with, people who are, that's their thing. So White Eyes in the Dark, all the synths and keyboards on that was done by a guy in a band. Do you know a band called The Contortionists? Anybody in that band? Anyway, he did all that versus, I gave him demos and he was like, okay, these are cool. Let me make them good. I was lucky enough to work with some really great drummers. I worked, Gavin Harrison and Benny Grab and these guys, which is like awesome. Much better than my MIDI drums. I think I gave, do you guys know who Gavin Harrison is? He plays in Portmanteau. Okay. I used to Skype with him every morning when we were doing Remarkably Human, and I remember being like, hey, what if you did, here's the drum thing I had for that. What do you think? He's like, no. I was like, yes, sir. He's like, that's bad. I'm like, okay. So I always, I always keep an open mind with what people want to bring in, and it makes the music better. Collaboration always makes things better. I know that's kind of sort of against what a guitar clinic is, where I'm up here alone playing, but when it comes to the actual production of the music, I just keep getting better at it. Not even so much better, but I just keep learning more, and always humbled by it. Someone will come in and you could use a synth here, or you could do this, or why don't you try doing it in this approach? And next thing you know, I get really good at that, and that starts showing up on all my records. Even the last one, where I'm trying to sing, and I use the word trying, to sing on that album, it's just another thing that I'm getting into, so it's going to start showing up more in the music. But the job's never done, And what's really changed, though, is the guitar is the absolute last thing I add to it, And a lot of that music, there's so much going on, there's orchestra and all this synth and these sound effects and piano, and then there's a little bit of guitar. But that'll change too. At some point I'll make the trio album where it's just guitar, bass, and drum, but it's a great question. Yeah. Yes?
Sorry about my English language, but I have a question about your guitar.
Okay.
Your first Schecter signature was with neck, with maple neck, with a fingerboard palisandre, rosewood, yes. And now, why do you have this choice of this neck with this wood?
That's a great question.
What is the difference in the sound for you?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought up Schecter, because that's why I'm here. So I should talk about them a little bit. Well, when I was growing up, I always played. First of all, you can tell this is based off of a Les Paul, of course. And when I was younger, I was always playing Strat style guitars, and it was always rosewood and maple. That's just what it was. That's what I thought a Strat was. So when I was approached, there's a whole story I can tell about why I got into it, but we'll get right into it. When I was approached by Schecter, I wanted to basically just reproduce the guitar I was playing, which was an Inca Silver Stratocaster with a rosewood fingerboard and maple neck and an alder body. So that was great. They did that, and they did it on a level where the guitar I was playing kind of really wasn't. It was kind of next level. And then shortly after, I got to go down to the custom shop again, and the president basically said, what do you want? We want to build you a Master Works guitar. What do you want? And I saw they had all these necks in the custom shop, just a bunch of abandoned necks.
Do you know Pao Ferro before?
Pardon me?
Pao Ferro.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Do you know before to use with Schecter?
I'm getting two different questions from you now. So, let me tell the story.
No, but
Yeah. So I'm in the custom shop, and I see this neck up on the wall, and it was basically this, and it had these kind of cool ring inlays. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting. What is that? And he told me it was wanky, and I always thought wanky was for bass guitars usually. I'd always see that. and I had them use that, and then I had just a green body we found from the 90s. It was just in a box, kind of in the corner. And we combined the two of them, and it looked really great. And I'll be honest with you, perfectly honest, blunt. The reason I picked that neck was not for the sound, it was just because I thought it looked really cool. It just looked great. When I'm using like a lot of gain and playing really loud, I can't actually hear the difference in tone wood. Maybe I'm missing that gene. I can't hear it. You know, if you just said play maple neck guitar through that, I don't know if I'd notice the difference. It looked great. I also love the raw unfinished neck. When you play these guitars, your this is gross, but your hand oil gets in there, and it just feels better. Also, because it is a hardwood, and I do a lot of touring. Well, I did before the pandemic, of course. And again, I live in a country of temperature extremes. It's either like really, really cold or so humid you just want to rip your skin off. It's like so ridiculously, you know, up and down. And I always had guitars that would, the frets would stick out a mile out of the fingerboard. And this kind of alleviates that. This doesn't happen anymore with this guitar. So that combined with the colors I liked those old 50s, 60s car colors, like what we ended up calling, atomic frost and atomic tangerine, and so on. It just looked great. It always looked so good. It was immediately kind of a thumbprint for me. It had a look to it. I'd never really seen anybody do it before. I've tried guitars with Paduk and Palfaro and full rosewood neck, and they're great. They're all great. But this one just kind of spoke to me a little bit more, And I'm starting to see other people try and do it with their guitars, and it's just such a cool looking instrument. And it was just love at first sight, basically, So after I did enough with Schecter with that rosewood maple, it was like, what's the ultimate guitar for you? And it was this. So yeah. Okay, we'll do one more, then we'll play some more music. Anybody else? One more question. Yes?
Do you have any tips for making a living out of making music?
How much time you got? Oh my god. Any tips for making a living? It depends on what you want to do with it, because, obviously the first thing I would say is teach. You could teach. If you enjoy that, that could be a really great way to do that. I used to teach out of high school. There was a guitar shop in the town I lived in, and they had just opened a third room, just a small little prison cell room. And I used to go and beg, I was 18, 19, can I please teach you? And the guy just eventually, it's that classic story, just stop asking. And I had one student at the beginning, and I was terrified. I was absolutely the most nervous wreck of a human being you could imagine. But eventually I built it up, and I had 40, 50, 60 students by the time I was 19, 20. But the problem was my spine started to look like a question mark, because I was sitting hunched over the guitar all day. I remember going to sit down on a bench in between lessons to just take a break, and I remember it was like, oh, that's comfortable. It just destroyed my back. So, if you have a good chiropractor, it's a great line of work to get in. So you can teach, of course. Teaching is great. In terms of making a living off music, I just started putting out albums. And, it's such a different world now than it was even 10 years ago or 20 years ago with distribution and social media and getting yourself out there. It can be done. You just have to stick with it. It also helped that my parents, they saw, and I was young enough, they saw that I had this blind sort of drive with no one could tell me otherwise. I was like, I'm going to be a musician. They're like, oh, you should have a backup plan. I'm like, no. You're a musician, and it's going to work out. And I didn't have to think about it. It's going to work out because it's going to work out because it's going to work out. And that's why it's going to work out. They're like, okay. And I just kept doing it. And next thing you know, I had another album out, another one. Then it just started to steamroll. And I didn't try and maybe follow whatever was going on at the time. When I put my first album out, there was a style of music that got really popular in 2010, 11. It was called gent. And I don't know how to do that. So I just didn't do that. I just did what I like to do, and maybe took a lot longer for it to catch on to some people. But I own all of it, so when it does well, I reap the benefits, but when it does poorly, I'm the one to blame. So you have to be ready for that. But you also get these really weird lucky breaks along the way. At some point, I decided to go to the States, like United States, to go to this one studio to record an album. I'll tell you a quick story. Because I'd done my first record and it did so poorly, nobody bought it. It was very humbling, which was a good lesson to learn. But I decided to pack the car up and I drove to Bethesda, Maryland. Maybe some of you know that in Bethesda from all those video games like Fallout. That's the same city. So I went to Bethesda. There's a studio there where a few bands I liked had made a record. I was like, I'm gonna go do that. I slept on the couch in the studio, which I'll sleep on your couch too. Give them a chance. Tell them. And the last day I was recording, I just finished a song called Sand Monsters, this acoustic song, and a singer from the band Periphery. You guys know that band? He just happened to come in the studio because he was like getting ready to do their next record. And he's like, oh, I like that song. And we just became really good friends. And we had an idea to start a band together, which didn't really go anywhere. But that got me onto playing on a Periphery album, which then steamrolled into a band. I'll tell you the next part of the story. I was at NAMM shortly after that, and these 4 kids came up to me. They all looked the exact same, a backwards hat and a hoodie on. And they all at the same time whipped out a business card. And there was a P on it. They're like, we're in a band called Polyphia. Will you play on our song? Which then was that was not wine, champagne. I'm just kidding, champagne of course. Which then it just kept going and kept going, and then I found out that there was another guy, about 20 minutes away from me, who was also doing the same thing. A guy named Aaron Marshall, who's also now a Schecter artist. And we started kind of working together a little bit. It just was like one decision, just kind of you put yourself out there, and it just kind of led to here. I don't know how, this is how I got here. So it can be done. You just have to stick with it, even though there's gonna be a lot of crippling failure. And honestly, I was such an introverted kid, such a nervous kid, and I had no self-esteem, and I was weird and quiet, contrary to what maybe you see now. So this was really hard for me. The first time I did a guitar clinic, I was probably in the back room, like just sweating. I was drinking water, and the water was coming out. Just and eventually you get better at it, and you kind of make peace with making mistakes, and you just become a better musician, more open-minded, stronger person. Next thing you know, you're putting out music that means something to you, and people react to it. That's the really quick kind of Cole's Notes version of it, I guess. But I don't. If I was to do it over again now, I don't know what the landscape was like. I know a lot of people make these crazy viral videos on different social media apps. I never really did that, so you can try that. Just get on TikTok. I don't know. But if you're putting out music, there's always a market for good music. People always want to hear good music and good guitar playing. So good luck. If you have any more questions after, I'll ask them. I'll answer them. So good luck. How's it going, by the way?
It's alright.
Okay, good. Cool. All right, more music.
Stand by.
Don't forget about the amp, stand by.
I got time. It's a long intro. Like all my music. Okay, this time I'll have to remember to turn the standby on, so remind me. Okay, let's do a few more questions. I'm going to play this guy in a minute. Yes, sir.
It's not a question, it's more advice. We have some noise gate behind, if you want.
Okay, well, we're almost done the clinic, so thanks for telling me now. Anybody else? Question? Yes.
When you weren't a professional guitarist, did you feel any, or much, like me maybe, frustration from playing? Because I see a lot of professional guitarists that tell, oh, when I was younger, I used to play 9 hours guitar a day.
Yeah.
But I have a job because I need money and I can't physically and mentally. When I play like 3 hours, I'm like, my brain is melting because I try to compose my thing, to do a lot of different works on my modes, on my techniques, on my composition. So
Yeah, no, it's tough. I totally get that. I mean, you can't, as you get older, you can't just play guitar 8 hours a day. It's impossible, right? Especially living in an expensive city. It was the same thing with me. I mean, I used to teach, like I said, 7-8 hours a day. Then I'd go home, and the last thing I wanted to do sometimes is actually play music, guitar. It was a very frustrating thing for me for a while. But I always manage to find time. I know it's not easy, and sometimes things are working against you. I had at one point really bad tendonitis in my hand, like terrible. It felt like my hand was on fire all the time for like a month, which made me extremely depressed for a very long time. And then just over time, it got better. But yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I think everybody is with you on that. You know, the only advice is just you stick with it. Just push through. In time, you'll get somewhere with it. It depends what you're trying to do too. You know, like do you have a band and you guys are trying to get on the road or what's?
Yeah, I play in a music school with a teacher, so we have a band, and the teacher is like, it's great, but try more like this or more like this.
Yeah.
And recently I have a band, but with COVID it's really difficult. It's not
Oh
really
yeah,
again.
totally.
And I have a little composition tools like an amp modeler,
Yeah.
things at home, but it's very difficult to have a great sound because I used to listen a lot of you, but like Guthrie Govan, Joe Satriani, and
Yeah.
very good sound, and I can't have this, and it's very frustrating. I want to push my wall sometimes, like, why?
Oh man, yeah, I feel for you for sure. Yeah, I figured that just whatever time I had, I didn't sit on YouTube or PlayStation or something. I just worked on music. I think it's just maybe you need to literally make an hourly schedule, break it down, figure out where can you get an extra half an hour here or there. And now things seem to be less expensive. You can get great sounds at home with plugins even, you know. And there's a certain weird sort of like ego and honor that we placed into doing things the way people before us did it,
Yeah.
which we don't have to do that anymore. I believe me, I'm using an amp. I'm still living with that too, but when I'm at home, I do things way differently. I'm at the computer, I'm plugged into a Kemper or, you know, software or something to do demos. And that time that you're maybe not doing stuff, touring or playing live or whatever, save that money. Just take a little bit of money each week and put it towards making the record you think is going to be your best thing. You know, put all that mental energy into even just one song. Like if you have that one piece of music, everything, just put it into that, and just you'll find time. Just keep doing that. It's very frustrating when all you want to do is one thing, but you can't, especially when it's usually financially driven. So you just have to find little 20-minute pockets here or there, you know, and just stay positive. It's so easy to get that downward spiral of like, this is never going to work, I can't do this, everyone's better than me, blah, blah, blah. We all go through it. But try and stay positive. Look on the bright side. Let's see your hands. You got 10 fingers, that's good. You can play guitar anytime, you know. You seem healthy, so, you know, you can do it. There's time, no rush. You know, I'm only starting to get a little bit of success now, and I'm like on my way to 40. I'm 35 this year, so how old are you two? You're young?
23.
But he's like, I'm 49. No, 23, yeah, you're good. Take your time. Don't rush, and don't let it defeat you because it will. That'll drive you crazy, you know?
Yeah. see that.
Yeah, it will. I didn't even put my first album out until I was 24, 25, so, you know, everyone's different. I used to look at the people that came before me, especially some of the really great guitar players, like,
Same.
don't do it, don't do it.
He was 14? Okay.
Yeah, I know. But, you know, you look at, like, who's a good example? I don't know, Jason Becker, 16 when he put that out. And that's great, but we already have Jason Becker. We have that. Yngwie, 19, 20, Paul Beuscher. That was a different time. It was a totally different world. And they're probably playing music that you don't even play. So, you know, focus on your own like mental health with that, because it's gonna make you into one day a crusty old man. So just be patient, and anytime you have, just put it towards the dream, save the money, and you'll get there. That's what I did, you know. And what's going to be really hard for you, I'll tell you, because it was hard for me, is when I finally did the record and it did nothing. That's when you go, oh shit, so like nobody cares. And then you do it again, and do it again, you do it again, and then eventually someone cares, you know, maybe your mom. My mom actually didn't even buy my first record, I don't think. But that's maybe a good way to think about it is you know, give it time.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. I hope that helped. I really do hope it
Yeah.
helps, because it's tough. It's a tough gig. Why do we do this? Anybody else? A couple more. Yes, sir.
My son stole one of my guitar a few months ago and started learning to play the guitar. He had a hard time to listen to my advice. It's normal. What's the best advice for learning guitar today? Using YouTube, a teacher, books, or pick up recordings? I think the ear is a very important thing, but what your point? What your best advice?
That's a really great question. Well, I'll just kind of talk about my experience with it, and you'll see where that leads us. Okay, so I started playing when I was 14, and the reason I started playing guitar was because I heard my neighbor. I could hear him playing through his basement window, and I was actually 13 at the time, and he was 14. And at least in Canada, when you're 13, you're in the 8th grade, so you're not quite in high school. When you're 14, you're in high school. So that age difference is like, it's huge, right? He's in a different. He might be going through puberty. Maybe he has a little bit of chest hair. I don't know. His voice could be changing. And I looked at him as like, wow. And I remember one day I worked up the courage and I knocked on the door. Can I come in and watch you play guitar? And he said, yeah, sure. So I went down and he gave me the guitar, and he just went. I hit the note and I moved my finger, and the note went up, and my mind just went. So it started off with just like curiosity and passion, and I got into it. I was just kind of led to it accidentally. And I wanted to keep getting better, because everything I had ever done before guitar, I was terrible at it. At school, I was so bad in school. Oh my god! And I was telling people I'm traveling with her now. I wish from the grade 3 to grade 9, which in Canada you have to take French. It's compulsory. I wish I had paid attention. I wish. Anyway. I was bad at it. In Canada, you are legally you have to play for at least 1 year hockey. No, I'm just kidding. But you have to, as a kid in Canada, like, I was terrible at hockey, I was terrible at sports, school. I was terrible talking to girls, everything, you name it. I was just horrible at everything. But for some reason, the guitar, it just made sense. I looked at it, it's like, oh yeah, I get it. If you move this way, the note gets higher. Cool. So I immediately could play just anything that he'd show me. I was like, I'll play back. And I got as far as I could with that. And I wanted to get a teacher, but I couldn't afford it. Because to convince my parents at the time to pay weekly lessons $30, $40, they're like, no, get out of here. I'm the middle child of 2 brothers, so we just didn't have the money for it. So I would listen to my dad's music, his album and CD collection. I would just try and figure the stuff out. Because I didn't have the internet either. I don't think I got the internet until I was a late adopter of this internet thing. I heard about it. I was like 16 or 17. So I just would use music, like records and CDs and stuff. And I got better. I didn't know how to play the stuff properly, but I figured out my own version of it. But again, if I had a teacher, could have kind of guided me in the right direction. And then I kind of bluffed my way into this first band. I'd been playing guitar for a month, and I said, oh yeah, I'm a guitar player. Cool, yeah, I can play in the band. And I got in this high school band with these two guys that had been playing for years, and I think we were just like, and they're like, you're out. So I was like, damn, okay, that didn't work. And I just kind of kept learning on my own, and it took me a long time. Then I started taking books out from the library so I could learn music theory. And I'd be in school just like writing down 13th arpeggios on a history class. I'd write down diminished triads and, you know, figuring out my scales and stuff. In short, I kind of took the long way around. It took a long time. The problem with just using videos and books is you can't ask questions. I could never be like, why is it diminished? What do you do with that? How do you use it? So by the time I learned enough to become a music teacher, I always made a point to really, kind of teach younger kids the stuff I had kind of missed out on, or it took me decades or a decade to learn. Plus, a really good teacher, in my opinion, can inspire you, and you can see him playing guitar in front of you. You ever go to a concert and you listen to your favorite band on a record and you're like, yeah, they're really good, but then you see them live and it's totally different. Seeing somebody play that thing in front of you, it's like it's kind of like a magical, at least to me it is. It almost doesn't make sense. It's like, wow, that's how they do it. It's just a piece of wood with strings on it. Get that inspiration. There's also something to be learned from just sitting in a room and just working your ass off and enjoying that process. I used to, on Friday nights, this is how much of a loser I was, on Friday nights in high school, everybody would be, are you going to come to this party? I'm like, no, I'm busy. Like, wow, cool, you're busy. Like, wow, you must be doing something awesome. I was like in my room just like, playing scales, just trying to figure it out. And I loved it. It was like the most fun. I think back to those times very fondly. I had just all this isolation, but I loved it. And it was never, I didn't have to be told to do it. I just did it. Falling in love with the instrument, kind of one-on-one, developing a relationship is also really special. And then there's the whole thing of like trying to play in a band. You learn extremely fast playing in a band because you start to focus on the stuff that has nothing to do with playing alone. You start to think about timing and being in tune and just playing the right thing at the right time, which is kind of like what made Guitar Hero so big. It's just like, you gotta do the thing at the right time and it sounds good. And then it kind of makes you rethink music. Am I doing the right thing? Should I be playing this? What do I need in my playing? What don't I need? There's a million ways you can look at that. But it all comes down to, are you driven enough to do these things? Because no matter what path you take, it's so hard to get. You've been playing now, like it's hard, right? Like how your fingertips, they hurt, right, a little bit. It's hard. It's extreme. Like it's so hard. It's crazy hard, and you're gonna be doing it. If you really love it, you'll be 75 years old, still working on that one lick, and you'll finally get it. And you're like, yeah. Wait till I show everyone. Wait. They're all gone. No. Sorry, that's really dark. That's really dark. But if I was just saying from purely an inspiration standpoint, having a great teacher who's not just going to teach you AC/DC songs, someone who's going to teach you like life lessons about music and show you theory you can use and inspire you and show you how to get good sound out of an amp and help you tune your guitar properly and just show you how to properly hold the guitar and understand the instrument and how to use these two things that a lot of people think are mystifying to my volume now. And I mean, your job too, sir, as a parent, is to of course encourage and inspire and show your son the beauty of it, as opposed to become a dentist and then you can be a guitar player on the side so make some money. My parents were great. They left me alone. They said, "You seem happy. You seem like you're getting something out of this. Keep doing it. and they'd take me to concerts. And if G3 ever came to town when I was a kid, my dad would take me to, that's when I got to see Yngwie for the first time, and I scared the shit out of me. I looked at him, I was like, just seeing him playing in front of me, it's like that magic moment. So there's no bad way, as long as you're sitting with the instrument. Even now, even me, when I sit down with the instrument, I'm like, this is why I do this. It's just to hear the sound of it, to play guitar, and to still get to play guitar. And I have a career now, which is nice, but it's I never think of it like that. I think I'm still learning. But I would recommend, if you can find a good teacher, and then practice, and practice a lot. And then if you think it's a lot, double that. I used to practice 8 hours every single day. I was extremely hard on myself. I had a schedule. This is so stupid. It was, in my mind, it was 4 hours by 4 o'clock. That's how, every day I had to have, school days was different, but it was 4 hours by 4. And then I'd do 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, eat dinner, play another 2 hours, take some time off, play another hour, and then I'd go to bed. Every single day. And if I didn't do that, this is not healthy, but I'd look in the mirror and be like, you get your 8 hours into it, and then the next day I have to make up the time. Yeah, I was a bad boss. I was not a very good CEO to myself. But for me, that's what it took. I don't think everybody should do that. 8 hours is a lot. I probably developed some real bad habits too, but I just loved it so much, and I still do. So if you love it that much, you'll learn, and you'll grow really quickly, and then you'll find people to play with, and that's great too. But the first step is just spending as much time as you can with the instrument. That's a really long answer, I know, but it's not simple. There's no simple answer to it. I think there's this whole thing where a lot of people, when they get into the instrument, they think, what's the best way to do this? How do I learn quick? It's just time spent alive on the planet with the instrument. That's really what it comes down to. So, good luck to you, my friend. Okay, I'll do one more, then I'm going to play one more song, and then I guess we'll do like some photos and signing and stuff. So if you have more questions after, we did. Yes.
6 o'clock.
Anybody else who has? Yes, sir.
I have 2 questions. One first question that is about a joke. Did you take some magician course or prestidigitator, because we see your pick disappear sometimes? You play sometimes picks and sometimes fingers. So more seriously, do you use the finger for have a certain kind of sound? And is there a rule about that, or is it just feeling and just the facility for playing, sometimes with the finger and sometimes with feet?
Yeah, I think the finger, because it's obviously a totally different material than a piece of plastic. It kind of gives a different attack to the note. It's a little softer, more round. I find it's better for muting, and that to me, I used to watch Jeff Beck play, and he had such a very specific sound, and I think the sound of the finger. I use my middle finger for a lot of, but that's more of the tip of the finger. It's just for dynamics and having a different sound. Sometimes I'll do that and roll the tone knob back, so it has like that cocked kind of wah pedal sound. But I didn't take any magician courses. It took me a while to get good at doing that because I'm left-handed and this hand is very clumsy. So it's just, again, time spent. But yeah, it's a noticeably different sound, which I'm going to do on this next song too.
And about the tapping, because you're speed enough for going through the whole neck.
Yeah.
So why do you use tapping just for comfort?
I don't know. I told myself a while ago that I was done. I'm done with tapping. I'm not going to do it anymore. It's a silly technique. But I just keep kind of going back to it. It just does. I mean, I can't reach here with the same hand. So it does something. It's another sound. It's another tool in the toolbox, I think. And that's also a end result from the obsessive amount of playing. All the techniques. Yeah. So.
And you worked on a picking style or something? Or?
I can't really do any of that stuff. The finger picking stuff. It never clicked. And contrary to what you're told, when you're taking lessons or when you're working with other people, I completely avoided my weaknesses. A lot of people try to strengthen what you're bad at. I just leaned into what I was good at. Life's too short and the guitar's too hard. There's the advice of the day, huh? Guitar's too hard, avoid your weaknesses. Anyways, guys, thank you so much. I'm going to play one more, and I hope to see you after. Thank you again.
Remember to turn the standby on, off, on,
One, two.
Thank you guys so much. And thank you to Schechter Guitars for this guitar playing. Thank you guys. See you in a minute.